But as I say, them firearms initially came from Nicky Ayers and his firm. Obviously, years later, when the Pancake tailors and the Lee Glovers grew up a decade, they fell out with Nicky Ayers. They had a run-in on a football pitch where Taylor, Pancake, felt he'd been disrespected on a level that he couldn't let go anymore. And the people that he's gone and purchased AK-47s off and other types of firearms 15 years before, he's now challenging. Unfortunately for Nicky Ayers and his family, the poison he was peddling 15 years before came back and bit him on the arse, and he was blasted to death on his step. And I think it was a Christmas Eve, if I'm right. So, it is what it is. I'm not talking. I know this. I'm very knowledgeable in that situation because I was around them individuals. Do you understand what I'm saying? People like to forget, you know, because it was what, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people like to forget. Nicky Ayers murder, what, 10 years ago, 8 years ago or something. But the point I'm making is the first fully automatic assault rifles that were distributed in the city of Liverpool came from Nicky Ayers and his little firm when they were running a pub facing Melwood training ground. I don't know why I've just gone on to that subject, but it is what it is. It's firearms, it's gangs, it's gang culture, it's dealing. Now, years ago, when Nicky Ayers was shot dead, they wouldn't go through your front door to get you. You know, the gunmen and the gangs of them times still had a little bit of moral capacity, if you like. They wouldn't go in your house where your kids was or stuff like this, but they'd shoot you dead outside and let your kid find you on the step. Here we are 10 years later, because there was no morals dished down by the elders. You've got kids at the ages of 20, 22, willing to go right through your front door and kill anyone that's there. Hence Ashley, hence Olivia. So let's speak about the Bakers again. For years and years, the Bakers, especially Anthony Baker, used to have a good friend called Daniel Reid. Daniel Reid was the man that shot Peter Singleton dead for Thomas Baker years and years and years ago. But while Daniel Reid, whose best mate was Akin Arabiki, by the way, and I mean best mates, he had a little protege who was around him for years and years before he died in his sleep through cold steroids. And his name was Rudy. And Rudy became very dangerous with a firearm. And Rudy went on to get himself a body count and became very notorious within the criminal fraternity of Liverpool. Just like it always does, and groups fall out. So you've had Thomas Baker and then the Thirlemere Road boys. No one likes to speak about the Thirlemere Road boys, do they? You know, the boys off Thirlemere Road have been distributing more than anyone in the city of Liverpool for the past 20 years. And every one of them people that was distributing off Thirlemere Road, your Jobo Harrises, your Sean Harris, your Fet Masons, all of them initially was getting their narcotics from the Baker family. And these were tight, you know, this was a tight organised crime group. They had their own gyms that they're training. They'll do MMA together in their own gyms, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in their own gyms. Do you understand what I'm saying? Very, very tight. And what all them little grafters used to do off Thirlemere Road, your Jobo Harrises, your Sean Harris, your Fett Masons, and all the other Buchanans, you know, Mark Buchanan, Rowley, you know, all of them. I know them all. I've watched them all deal drugs. What they used to do on a regular basis was put money in a kitty that Thomas Baker used to mind. And they were doing that for years under the influence that they would get a huge chunk in a few years' time, or when it was time to split that pot up, they'd get a nice bit of dough. Unfortunately for all these youngsters that have been putting into this pot for ages, Thomas Baker bumped them and they all fell out. And it erupted. And it erupted fast to the point where you get fatalities all over the place. That's a different story. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not going to start delving into that. That's for a different occasion. Now, what you've got to understand is, right, as I said earlier on, the Bakers have been working alongside the law for a very, very long time. And they've always worked with people in the background that's been involved in violence in the city. If you think about Michael Wright, that was shot dead by David Turner, he used to get the majority of the Baker family. When you think about the people that sit in the background, your Rick Kennedys and your Bob Kennedy and your Jobo Harrises, these have peddled in our areas for a long time, but sat in the background. But they're linked to the Baker family. And as I said earlier on, the Bakers have worked alongside the law for a long time. And they always pull little dickheads in like Spock to do their madness. Fingers, Kilcourse, Piet. These are all young men that have been used, abused and groomed. And some of them last three names I've just spoke to you about have killed in the city and they're still free to kill. Do you understand what I'm saying? Only Rush, hope you well. Well, it is what it is. I can go on all night about these dirty, dying, organised crime families that have destroyed Liverpool and some areas outside. The whole point of me getting onto this topic was to explain how the dealing began over the water. Now, don't get your mind in a little twist. You have got kids in the last decade that has found themselves their own routes to get huge passing, and they used to live over the water to stay out of the eye of Merseyside police. And what you get is a lot of dealers moving from Liverpool over the water, Prenton, so on and so forth, to get out the police's eye and to make it a bit more difficult for the rats to get them. But Liverpool, Scousers from the Langsdale area was the first peoples to get themselves in Birkenhead and distribute narcotics on the streets. Because they were the first in there, they were first to get to know the locals. They were the first to start giving the locals their. And what you're seeing now, 15 years later, is a war that's going on between the Beechwood estate and the Woodchurch estate. And what's happening? It's all there to see.